Today, on what would have been Cesar Chavez's 87th birthday, I asked my Republican colleagues to find it in their hearts to honor a man who really made a difference in our country. Frankly, I don't understand their reluctance. I don't understand their obstructionism. I don't understand how they can look back at that time in history, at the sacrifices Cesar Chavez made for our country, asking for nothing more than fair treatment and justice. Now, I realize it's uncommon to make a live unanimous consent request for a commemorative resolution, but if Republicans are going to object yet again for an 8th year in a row to honoring in my view, a great American hero, I really want it to be on the record. I think Republicans need to answer to the American people as to why, as a party, they can agree to passing resolutions honoring World Plumbing Day or congratulating the Penn State Dance Marathon, both Senate resolutions that were adopted this month by unanimous consent, but insist on standing in the way of honoring a civil rights trailblazer who changed the course of our nation's history. Cesar Chavez was a man before his time, and he deserves proper recognition. He dedicated his life to fighting for equality, justice, and dignity, not only for Hispanic farm workers, but for all workers in the United States. Yet our friends on the other side cannot find it in their hearts to honor him, and I have to ask why. Why can't they simply say yes? He was an extraordinary man who gave of himself for his cause and deserves to be remembered and honored by the United States Senate. The President of the United States proclaimed today, March 31st, 2014, as Cesar Chavez Day. Over 10 states honor his life and legacy each year on this day. The Secretary of the Interior established a national monument in his honor. And across the country, you'll find schools and parks, streets, libraries, and other public facilities named after Cesar Chavez as well. So I implore Senate Republicans to reconsider denying Cesar Chavez's legacy for an 8th year in a row. Adopt this commemorative resolution by unanimous consent. Give Cesar Chavez the recognition he so deserves. That's all we ask, nothing more. This year, there is a new movie chronicling the life of Cesar Chavez, a life lived with honor and dignity and decency for the betterment of all of us. The film is long overdue. That life, that dedication, that spirit will always be missed. He was born near his family's farm in Yuma, Arizona. When he was 10, in the hard times of the Depression, the family lost their farm like millions of Americans, and they became migrant farm workers, laboring in vineyards across the Southwest, where he learned of the injustice and hardship of a farm worker's life. He never left those fields. He never left the land. He never turned his back on the people who worked it, and the rest is history. Robert Kennedy called him one of the most heroic figures of our time. I think it's because Cesar Chavez understood and believed in one fundamental truth. He always said, quote, "The fight is never about grapes or lettuce. It's always about people." He was right, and that fight continues today. The struggle for fairness and dignity for every American goes on, and Cesar Chavez was and is its inspiration. He certainly is an American hero, but most definitely a hero to the Hispanic community. He paved the way for the contributions of Hispanic Americans for innovative progress and social improvements. If there's one man that redefined leadership, it is Cesar Chavez. And I think my colleagues need to know that the community stands with me today and stands firmly behind my resolution honoring the life and legacy of Cesar Chavez. Mr. President, I have a list, and in the interest of time, I won't read it, but of over 29 national and actually 37 national Hispanic and labor organizations, all which support the resolution that I'd ask unanimous consent to include in the record.
Without objection.
We all eagerly await the day when politics will no longer preclude its passage. Cesar Chavez's profound legacy and lasting influence can be reduced to 3 words: the motto of the United Farm Workers, that recall his fight for justice and have echoed from the fields of Delano, California, across America, all the way to the White House. Si se puede. These three words, while simple in nature, harbor the power to move entire communities from the dark shadows of injustice towards a brighter light of hope. These three words represent at its very core the spirit that breathes life into America's struggle for a better life. As the leader of the first successful farm workers union in the United States, he fought to ensure those working tirelessly to provide Americans with food receive the benefits they deserve. Nonetheless, his service extends far beyond our agricultural fields and provides inspirations to those working to improve human rights, empowering workers regardless of race or ethnicity. His countless efforts to ensure equality, justice, and dignity for all people in the United States are a testament of his leadership and success, a success that can only be measured by the lasting impact he's made towards ending workplace discrimination, unsafe and unfair working conditions, low wages, and child labor. He was more than just a farmer with a vision. He was a civil rights leader that embodied the pursuit of justice that continues to inspire millions of Americans today. So I come to the floor today to honor the life and achievements of Cesar Chavez, to ask my Republican colleagues to put aside their politics and do what is right by a man whose life and legacy deserve the recognition of this nation and one Congress. Let us stand together and recognize the accomplishments of a great American hero, but most importantly, let us honor the values that make our country great, the values of tolerance, hope, and freedom upon which this country was founded. And let us always remember, as Chavez said, the fight is always about the people. With that, Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that the Judiciary Committee be discharged from further consideration of S-Res 404, the resolution be agreed to, the preamble be agreed to, and the motion to reconsider be laid upon the table with no intervening action or debate.
Is there objection?
Mr. President,
The senator from Alabama.
reserving the right to object, I would note that the resolution has not come out of Judiciary Committee and that Senator Vitter, who has filed an amendment to the resolution, asks that that amendment be accepted or voted on, which has been not agreed to. The amendment would say a couple of things. One, whereas Cesar Chavez strongly believed in enforcing immigration laws, thereby reducing the deleterious effects of inexpensive labor on the wages of farm workers in the United States, and which was recognized by the Congressional Budget Office in June of 2013 in their report entitled Economic Impact of S-744, the Border Security Economic Opportunity and Modernization Act. And he offers this whereas, a second one, whereas Cesar Chavez recognized the importance of a secure southern border with Mexico through citizen participation in the enforcement of immigration laws by encouraging members of the United Farm Workers of America to contact the Immigration and Naturalization Service to report instances of illegal labor. So those were, that not having been accepted, I guess I would ask that that would be accepted. It's at the desk. Be agreed to prior to adoption of this resolution. Well,
Does the senator from New Jersey so modify his request?
Reserving the right to object. Mr. President, this is not about Cesar Chavez. This is about immigration. Now, I know that my distinguished colleague has a different view about immigration than I do. I know that he and Senator Vitter, on who he's offering this amendment by, also has a different view. The Senate has spoken on the question of immigration. 67 senators, two-thirds of the Senate, has already sent an immigration reform bill to the House of Representatives. So while we may have different views, that's not the issue of Cesar Chavez. And in my view, it is an injustice to his memory to offer such an amendment, and that's why I will have to object.
Is there objection to the
Mr. President,
Is there objection to the original request?
I would object and would just note that I do have a different view, and on these issues with regard to the impact of S 744, had it passed, it would have been adverse to farm workers who are in this country, working hard, need pay raises, and need better job opportunities. And I think these are important parts of Mr. Chavez's career. Seems to me that the senator would be pleased to accept them. But I understand we have a disagreement, and I would yield the floor and express my respect for Senator Menendez and his leadership on the Foreign Relations Committee, but we disagree on this subject.
Objection is heard.
Mr. President.
The senator from New Jersey.
Mr. President, you know, I have a deep respect for Senator Sessions, but I'll just simply say this is the eighth year in which under some fig leaf, before they could hide to their objection. But this is really a fig leaf. The Senate has expressed itself on immigration reform. This is not about immigration reform. This is about Cesar Chavez. This is about a man who led boycotts across the country to bring to justice the rights of farm workers and of all workers across the land. And there is no bigger supporter, by the way, of immigration reform than the United Farm Workers, which he helped build, create, and today is one of the strongest voices for that immigration reform. So it's really, from my view, shameful that we can pass, you know, commemorative resolutions on some of the most insignificant issues, but on the life of someone who changed the course of this country, for millions of Latinos who understand that life in history and would want to see that life commemorated, that there can be a continuing objection 8 years. And I will keep coming each year to the floor, Mr. President, to make this happen, because at some point it will. And with that, Mr. President, I yield the floor.